America freed the slaves in 1863 through the Emancipation Proclamation of Abraham Lincoln, but gave the slaves no land or nothing in reality, and as a matter of fact, to get started on. At the same time, America was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that there was a willingness to give the white peasants from Europe an economic base. And yet it refused to give its black peasants from Africa, who came here involuntarily in chains and had worked free for 244 years, any kind of economic base.
The disrespect of Martin Luther King has to stop. If y'all want to bring up Martin Luther King's personal life, you say that he had mistresses. Well, the first 13 founding fathers of this country was rapists, because slaves could not consent. We all know Thomas Jefferson and George Washington was a rapist, Ben Franklin, all of these people. John F. Kennedy had an affair with Marilyn Monroe. All of these presidents, Bill Clinton received Monica Lewinsky inside of the White House. But you want us to discredit Martin Luther King for his extramarital affairs when you cannot bring forth one pure white man. Even you have tried to say Malcolm X. But people don't like Martin Luther King because Martin Luther King changed his directions.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, I'm not one to lose hope. I keep on hoping. I still have faith in the future. But I've had to analyze many things over the last few years, and I would say over the last few months. I've gone through a lot of soul-searching and agonizing moments. And I've come to see that we have many more difficult days ahead, and some of the old optimism was a little superficial, and now it must be tempered with a solid realism. And I think the realistic fact is that we still have a long, long way to go. I think the biggest problem now is that we got our gains over the last 12 years at bargain rate, so to speak. Didn't cost the nation anything. In fact, it helped the economic side of the nation to integrate lunch counters and public accommodations.
So the disrespect of Martin Luther King is not because of what he did. It's because they don't want you to discover what he was going to do. Charlie Kirk never had plans to fight for black people. But Martin Luther King, before they unalived him, was organizing the Poor People Campaign. And the Poor People Campaign was Martin Luther King going to Washington, D.C. with poor people who hated him. White poor people hated Martin Luther King. It was white poor people who was the speed bumps in the road that Martin Luther King was trying to clear. But every time he tried to clear a road, it wasn't the rich, white, poor people who bombed the freedom fighters, who came out and beat the civil rights movement. It was the poor ones. But yet Martin Luther King was going to America to get a check for them. Charlie Kirk was not fighting on behalf of black people. So please do not compare the two.
One of the most urgent items on the agenda of modern life. That is nothing new about poverty. What is new, however, is that we have the resources to get rid of it. Why should there be hunger and privation in any land, in any city, at any table, when man has the resources and the scientific know-how to provide all mankind with the basic necessities of life? That is no deficit in human resources. The deficit is in human will. Just as nonviolence exposed the ugliness of racial injustice, so must the infection and sickness of poverty be exposed and healed